Hi there, I hope you are doing great. Today we have here the best electric grinders between 350 and 600 US dollar. There might be some alternative options out there, but those probably the most interesting ones. I believe that when you dive too much into the details, if I'm gonna dive into the details of each grinder, speak so much about it, you'll lose the bigger picture, and I don't want something like that happening here. I just want you getting the bigger picture, the advantages and disadvantages of each one, the practicality of use, how to shift between espresso filter, and in the end I want to speak about the taste-wise. Taste-wise will be subjective, however, I'll just give based on my experience on different roasting profiles. Speaking about roasting profiles, I want to thank the visitor roaster of today's video, Keen Coffee Roasters. They've sent us a wide range of their coffee beans, ranging from light roast, medium roast, and kind of medium well developed for espresso roasting profile. We've used their delicious coffee to test along all these electric grinders. This video has a giveaway by DF64 team. They were very generous to offer 2 lucky friends the chance to win 2 electric grinders, so stay tuned for that until the end of the video. Let's start with the first one, the Option Olago mini grinder. Now, as the name says, mini, it is by far the smallest, the most elegant, and the most adorable electric grinder. It is extremely small, almost as sized as a hand grinder. It is really practical. It's using burr geometry that is optimized for filter coffee, or in general that gives really nice consistency. In the beginning they came with a different coating in the burr that was obsidian black, it's called. That one was good, but it was not giving high consistency and high clarity in filter coffee. After a while they came with this finishing, which is called moonshine. It is really nice. I love this burr and the results that are coming from it in filter coffee. Filter brews were juicy, clean, crisp, and even in espresso it is really delicious and enjoyable. It has many magnetic parts. For instance, the lid is magnet, the dosing cup is magnet. Speaking about the dosing cup, I noticed one thing. If you try to put it from the front, by nature you will think to put it this way, and if you tilt it, if it comes with your hand this way, it will be hitting against the grinding shaft. So I found it is more practical just to put it from side. That's it. Static is not an issue, but I do prefer to give the beans one splash. It has this finger guard anti-popcorn from the top. I think they put this only for the regulations because it is not practical. Coffee beans get stuck there very often. I really like the build quality, the size. The motor is relatively quiet. It is not super quiet, but it is relatively quiet. I don't know why they choose to go with this design of grind adjustments. Basically, they did not put any number, and when they decided to put a number, they put 0. And the funny thing that the grinder does not stop at 0. It stops at -10 after 0. So you go 10 marks after 0 and it stops there. They might have chosen to go this way in order to avoid some different grind settings between different grinders, and they do provide you with many stickers, black and small dots to place based on your preference as a number or as a reference mark. It can go as fine enough to choke your espresso machine, and the grind adjustment mechanism espresso will give you a difference between 2 to 3 seconds, which is really enough for espresso extraction. It is slightly on the expensive side, however they did not go cheap in the build quality. For instance, there's a bearing that makes the hopper rotation smoother, made in Japan, and of a high quality. It is very smooth to rotate the hopper. Right now it looks like it's finished, but in reality it's not finished yet. There are still some ground coffee, and the grinder seems to suffer to push the final 1 gram. So you have to wait until 5 seconds. Even the sound is finished, the grinding is finished. 5 seconds, extra seconds of clearing the ground coffee. If you have a look here, you can see the coffee going down. Right now it's finished. Yeah, right now it's finished. Something I thought it's good to mention. So moving on to the next grinder, the DF64 V4. And the DF64 Gen 2. We were very lucky to get our hands on this grinder due to the fact that it was shipped by the distributor in Canada, Me Coffee. They helped us in getting this unit. Huge thanks to them, feel free to check them. I will leave a link for them in the description down below. The DF64 was probably the best bang for buck 64 flat burrs grinder on the market. They offered a very competitive price tag. It is really well built grinder. The motor is really strong and capable, and it is a reliable grinder. They had an issue with the grinding shout and the declumper, and they never seemed to get rid of it with V1, V2, V3, even with this V4. When the ground coffee is gonna go out, due to the fact that the design, the high RPM and the plastic shout, there was something called static electricity. We made a video about this in the past, and without splashing the beans with water, you can see in that video the difference what will happen. Ground coffee will be stucking everywhere on the body of the grinder, things will get messy. It really gets annoying after a while. There are so many mods for this grinder. We've already installed the tilted fork that hold the dosing cup in a tilted way in this grinder. By the way, this tilted fork is by our friends at Camprista on Etsy, and so many mods for different grinders. Make sure to check them. I'll leave a link for them in the description below. They've sent us a 3D printed piece that sits inside the grinding shout, and you'll change the declumper. It really made a huge difference, and it fixed the issue. It is not cheap, but it is well finished, and you can easily screw, because the entire approach of changing the grinding shout, it is slightly difficult. You have to tilt the grinder, unscrew it, and go into the internals, and yeah, it is an annoying process. Another issue with this grinder is that while it gives you micro adjustments for espresso, it is not perfect micro adjustments. You can still get that like 3 seconds difference. Sometimes you do wish 1 second difference, and it's slightly difficult to achieve. As stock, the burrs that comes with it, they are average. You will get decent results from espresso, kind of acceptable filtered coffee, but most people are interested in this grinder in order to upgrade it to SSP burrs. Our favorite with this grinder, due to the fact of high RPM, were the multi-purpose. They really gave delicious results, but that will be extra $200 US on the price tag. Moving on to the new version, they almost fixed everything. They've added the wooden cap, as we already customized in a different grinder. They've added an anti-popcorn on the top. Basically, you don't have to put the silicone hopper if you don't want. They've increased the machining quality. All the internal parts can be seen as they are CNC machined, whereas in the DF64 few parts were looking kind of cast metal. However, in the Gen 2 you can see that everything CNC machined. I bet that the alignment is much better. You can already feel that. Additionally, they've changed the burrs. They've added new version burrs. It is stainless steel. It is really sharp. I think they started making them in China. The old ones were made by Italmill. The old version is wrapped. It's a vinyl wrap probably, or some kind of coloring wrap. The new one is painted. They've changed the on-off switch on the side. They've added the metal dosing cup, and they added color to the dosing cup to prevent the static. Last but not least, they added the technology which they named, I think, plasma anti-static technology. To put it in simple words, it's having 2 electric needles inside the grinding shout that will send a current to prevent the static electricity from happening. They are extremely effective. The grinder has almost 0 static, and they've even improved the declumper. They are putting 2 pieces metal and plastic, and yeah, it is really effective. I love the new version, and I think it will be a huge competitor in the market when it comes. Now you hear this rattling noise. Right now it's stopping. It is mostly because the dosing cup is not fit in place. Now the Time War Sculptor 64 was very anticipated a while ago when it came on Kickstarter. We got this review unit very early, and so many friends were interested in many questions, and we tried to answer most of them. However, the problem with sharing feedback really early, you are always skeptical if you are confident or not. You really need to live with the grinder to share confident feedback. So let's speak about the build quality. It has a front grind adjustment mechanism that is stepless. This means there are no clicks. You choose the setting that you wish to be at. It has a very nice magnetic dosing cup that goes in place. Color knocker on the front, you just rotate it and it knocks the coffee, the ground coffee, to prevent from retention. They came with the first time this hub with a Sculptor 078, and they never seemed to perfect it. It has an adjustable RPM from the back, and on-off switch is on the side. The grinder is quiet. Let me show you. It is really quiet, and here you can hear the difference in RPM. High RPM, low RPM. As it's using 64mm burrs, so many people are interested, and I personally was interested if it's able to use 64mm burrs by SSP. It does and it does not. It is able to use SSP burrs, the newer version. There were some old versions that had slightly wider diameter, maybe by 0.2mm, and many friends, they were trying to fit it inside the timer and they were not able to do that. However, I think any SSP burr starting from the past 1 year or 2 years, all of them will work on the time walk grinders. I did personally test all the ones that we have, the cast version, the multi-purpose, and the high uniformity. They all fit the grinder. Time Warp personally did not think that someone will be changing the burrs, and they made it really difficult to change them. I thought at the beginning it is an easy step, but as I was changing the burrs yesterday and the last few days, it is really an annoying process and time consuming. You have to take the grinding dial, take the grinding color, maybe 8 screws, take the burr carrier, clean it, clean the screw holes, remove the screws. And if you want to check for alignment with the marker test, you have to do all this process all again. Comparing it to something like the DF64 or the DF64 Gen 2, which is, by the way, is even easier than the Gen 1. Nonetheless, the past few days I was testing it with the lab sweet burrs, even at the lowest RPM and espresso setting, light roast coffee beans, no issue at all. I did run into some stalling issues with the multi-purpose burrs and light roast at low RPM. It was only working at high RPM, but the multi-purpose burrs do require more torque than often, and it is not stalling, it is kind of motor protection mechanism. Just ramp the RPM. At this price range, you cannot expect that much. At least they are giving you the RPM control. What I do wish from this grinder and what I do not like is the grind adjustment. It is enough to give you a difference of 4 seconds, but it is not as accurate as you would like it to be. The smallest shifting will change an espresso, and it is not easy to see at which setting you are at. Like, am I 0.1, am I 0.2? The numbers are very tiny, and they are not practical all in all. As a grinder, it is a very nice one. If you got it, you'll be happy with it. As a stock, the burrs did not impress me. There's nothing special about them. If I'm gonna put it in one word, there's nothing special about it. They are flat burrs. They give you decent espresso, decent filter coffee. Now let me show you how it sounds while grinding coffee beans. Moving on to the next grinder, the Arco 2-in-1 grinder by Goat Story. As the name stands, 2-in-1. It is a mix between hand grinder and electric grinder. You just give the body a small twist, you take the grinder down, and here you go. You have a manual grinder. It comes with the handle, and yeah, you can take it to the outdoor. When you come back home, you can just put it in place. It's using magnetic dosing cup. It feels industrial build quality. The finishing is not very high, but at the same time it is accurate. It is smooth from the inside. Titanium coated burrs, DLC probably. The burrs inside this grinder are famous for sweetness and good body. They are the same as in a famous grinder called Kino grinder, hand grinder. The grinding dial is enjoyable to use. It is stepped by clicks. Anyone will be able to easily get used to it. Extraction time between 3 to 5 seconds. Ideally, I would want 1 second difference in extraction time, but still 3 seconds is really decent. You'll be able to get your perfectly timed espresso shot, no issues at all. In addition to the practical grind adjustment mechanism, it has satisfying opening shout on the top. I did notice that if you keep it open, no way coffee beans will go out from the top. It is a minimalistic grinder, small design, practicality of using it outdoor, bringing it indoor. The main issue with this grinder is the noise. The motor is very loud, and I'll let you be the judge here. Let me show you how it sounds while grinding coffee beans. This is the main issue with this grinder, and I know that it is a purchase decision for many people because grinding coffee is the first thing you do when you wake up, and if you have somebody sleeping around the house, that should be on your consideration. Yeah, that's the Arco grinder. Moving on to the next grinder, the Star Seeker grinder. This is probably the first production batch of this grinder. I was surprised by the packaging, by the build quality, the design of this grinder. I was casually surfing around AliExpress checking for what's coming new, and I saw this grinder. Usually on AliExpress the sellers, they are not the manufacturer. However, in this case the seller was the manufacturer. I got in touch with the owner and they offered us a very generous discount on the grinder, and this is the very first batch. It has an elegant design, well machined, nice build quality. The finishing is the same as the one in the Lago Mini. The color, the finishing, I really enjoy the silver color. It comes with many accessories including RDT bottle and most importantly dosing funnel. The dosing cup is really nice, however it is very annoying to insert it, and right now it's inserted and taking it off is really difficult. The reason behind this is that the fork that is holding the dosing cup, it is really tight and is made that way. Basically, it holds the dosing cup by having it slightly tighter. Nonetheless, I think they kind of misjudged the calculations and it is tighter. It might get looser with time. It comes with a dosing funnel, magnetic dosing funnel, and I truly enjoyed my time using the portafilter and the portafilter holder. Moving on to the hopper. Sometimes coffee beans get stuck in the hopper because you are doing RDT. It is something similar that happens in a similar grinder like the Varia VS3 and the Option O. However, as those grinders offer smaller hoppers, it's less common and less frequent than this one. It has a larger burr and accordingly larger hopper. Speaking about the burrs, I was interested in this grinder in the first place because it is using the same burr geometry that is being used in the Option O, but at a larger size. They are 63mm burrs, the exact size as those ones that are being used in the Niche Zero. The burrs themselves, they look well machined, most probably DLC coated. They live to the expectations. They give delicious filter coffee, delicious espresso. So on this grinder, they do not allow you to go to the point where burrs are touching. It's fixed. You go to the zero, you cannot go finer. Well, you can go at -2. And I did grind at -2, very light roasted coffee beans. And I got an extraction time maybe 37-40 seconds. So if you are planning to do some long pre-infusion or maybe with different roasting profiles or different coffee beans, you might run in this situation. It is not going too fine enough. It has probably an easy fix by having a shim, small piece of metal, they call them shims. You place it underneath the cone burr and it pushes the burr upwards. I will speak with the company and I think they will fix this most probably, but until they address that, this is really important part. Overall, I like the build quality. The grind adjustment mechanism, again, it is slightly tough to rotate. It has a magnetic grinding shaft, you can remove it. It is a helpful option for cleaning routine. It comes with a decent sized power brake. Again, something similar to the Varia VS3, slightly larger. Yeah, it is good. Hi there. First of all, sorry for the break and for the quality of the sound. This room is not acoustically treated. Anyway, it will be short. For the grinder star seeker, after I shot the video, I got in touch with the company and I explained that, look, there's an issue with the grind adjustment, you need to address that. They were very considerate and they told me that they really sent me the very first production unit, or one of the very first few production units. They've already started selling the grinder as a stock with the stainless steel finished burrs. It will give you crisper, better filtered coffee and also better espresso results. In regards to the grind adjustment mechanism, they fixed this with the new units, and for my case they sent me a new ground spindle that has a thicker base, and they've added 3 extra shims. Basically the shims will help you on lifting the burrs up. The cone burr will go up and you'll be able to choke your espresso machine at maybe setting number 5 or 6. So that was worth mentioning, and yeah, let's go back to the video. Femobook A68. One of the advantages of this grinder is that it has so many magnetic parts, everything by hand. The coffee beans funnel, magnet, the upper part, the front guard, dosing cups, not magnet, the grinding shaft, magnet, the grinding chamber itself. You just lift this lip and it comes here. You have the burrs, the grinding dial. Even if you want to take the burrs, you give it a slight push from the bottom, and on the top you remove the grinding dial by just popping it open. Fully disassembled by hands within maybe 20 seconds. They offer interesting color schemes. I know many people love the red and black one. I did want to get that one, but they only had the green/gold available. And yeah, it looks beautiful. It is very practical to use. The grind adjustment mechanism is accurate and sufficient enough to give you a difference in extraction time for 1 second. It is really accurate. You rarely get this in a conical burr grinder, but in this one they made the thread very fine, and yeah, you'll get perfectly timed espresso shots. It has a very thin design. It is using 68mm conical burr, once again the same one that's used in option Oligo Mini and the Starch Seeker, but this is by far the largest size burr with this geometry that I've ever seen. It gives very delicious filter coffee and espresso. The ease of use between shifting from espresso and filter coffee. In general, the stepped grind adjustment, it is easier to use than stepless. The feedback that you get from the clicks, it is satisfying to use. What I don't like about this grinder, first and foremost, very large power brick, almost like a laptop charger. If you are putting on your setup, you can hide it behind the setup, but I do wish if it was somewhere included in the grinder. I wouldn't mind to be slightly taller if it meant getting rid of the large power brick. Right now to the worst part. This is my main issue with this grinder. That's it. Other than that, I really love this grinder. Is the noise. It is by far the noisiest grinder between those, and I think it stands right there next to the Arco, but it is most probably louder. Yeah, right now everyone is awake. Yeah, that's it, the Femobook A63. The DF64V. Once again, this grinder is by DF64, the high-end version of the D64 and the D64 Gen 2. It is using super quiet motor. It almost has no sound. Like right now I'm gonna turn it. I don't know if you can hear it. It's almost mute. Almost no sound at all. It has an adjustable RPM on the side, and if you increase that, you will hear that. You will start to appreciate that the burrs are turning, but it's still super silent. The internal parts look super accurate and very well machined. You can see that even by looking at them. It has the anti-popcorn on the top, and when you remove the hopper, you will see that with this version, which is the latest one, they added small piece for slow feeding. It will assist in slow feeding the coffee beans, something similar to the Niche Zero. This is the second batch of this grinder. With the first batch, there were some reported issues with the grinder at the lowest RPM stalling. Basically, you put coffee beans, most probably in espresso range, very light beans, and at the lowest RPM, the grinder will not turn on. They fixed this with the second batch, like the one I have here, the latest one, and they've added that slower feeding rate to avoid that issue also. But even without that piece, I've tested this grinder vigorously. Super light roast, filter roast, Turkish grind coffee setting, and it had no issues at all. If the grinder starts at a low RPM and it is finding itself at a high resistance, it will wrap the RPM up, the grinder will rotate faster, it will go smooth. This will happen within half second, like it will not last 10 seconds to do this. It's just within half second, then we'll go back to low RPM. It is super effective. I love everything about it. Changing the burrs is probably the easiest between all the 64mm grinders. Much easier than the Time More, definitely, and easier than the 64. When I removed the burrs, I found small sticker on different sides. That is indication they use it as a shim to slightly lift the burrs. This says that each machine is calibrated in the manufacturer. Additionally, with this grinder, they started providing the DLC coated burrs. It is really sharp, and results on espresso and filter were surprisingly good. I love this grinder. I'm a huge fan of it, and you probably will not be able to find anything similar in that price range. It is there to last, and it is a wonderful option to go with. Moving on to the bigger brother, the DF83. The DF83 is still kind of new. It came maybe 6 months ago. Once again, DF64 team were crushing the prices with this one. Usually grinders with 83mm burrs are definitely above the $1,000 mark. They came with this one, it's within $600, which is surprising price. It is a very capable grinder, super fast at grinding within 10 seconds, 11 seconds, sometimes 8 seconds. It will give you all your espresso dose. It has a high RPM motor. It has the plasma technology, the same one that they are using in Gen 2. And a matter of fact, the first time they started implementing this technology is with this one. Then they implemented into the DF64 Gen 2. It is truly effective, no static at all. It has the same metal dosing cup, the rattling noise that comes with it. I love the build quality. I love the ability to change the burrs to SSP burrs. I speak about this in detail in the next video, where I'll be comparing the grinders between $600 and $1,000. Both of these grinders will be included because at that price range I will consider adding the SSP burrs to them, so they are huge competitive in that category. Speaking of SSP burrs, the larger SSP are much more expensive. As I spoke, I did not notice a huge difference between 64 and 83mm burrs, mostly the speed. It might have been in a few cases when there was a very light roast beans, and when I was comparing SSP multi-purpose, the larger one with the smaller ones, the larger one gave a smoother espresso and the extraction was easier to happen. And as stock, the burrs on this one, they are not the new burrs that DF64 started implementing. They most probably by Etal Mill, I'm not sure. But I do prefer the ones that comes in the DF64V. They are sharper, cleaner and smoother. This is the DF64 while grinding coffee beans. You saw what happened there? It stopped for 1 second, ramped up the RPM and went into grinding. No issues at all. So to summarize everything up very fast, the option Olagon Mini is by far the smallest, the most travel-friendly grinder. It is a wonderful option for traveling consideration, as a spare grinder, and for a small setup. I wouldn't expect high demand from this grinder. It can be used as a daily driver, but it is not built to last generations. They state this on their website. The power brick is almost as a Apple laptop charger. So that's it. If you are on a budget and you love the fact about trying SSP burrs, the old version V4 DF64 is a wonderful option for that. You do need to consider the mods from our friends at Comprista. They will truly help you on that static issue on the ground retention. Gen 2, this grinder is going to be a strong competitive on the market. It fixed all the issues here. This is probably the best option for 64mm grinder with SSP burrs. Coming to the time mode, it is still a nice option. You have the adjustable RPM as is stock. With the stock burrs, I prefer the ones from the DF64 Gen 2, the new one. But if you're gonna change to SSP burrs, you're gonna get relatively similar results, and in the time mode you have the ability to adjust the RPM. And I noticed that with lab sweet burrs I prefer the low RPM, which here you cannot control it. So this one has the advantage here. The Arco grinder, I hate the noise from it, but many people they do not mind it. You have the modular design. It is perfect in its category. The fact 2-in-1 grinder, it is really nice, well made. The customer support, by the way, by all these grinders, it is wonderful. The Star Seeker, it might be slightly tough to get in touch with AliExpress, but still the manufacturer instantly replied to me and they assisted me, so I think you will not find any issue with their customer service. The motor on this grinder is stronger and more capable for espresso. The Femobook A68, I love the burr, the filter coffee, the espresso, the modular design, everything can be assembled by hand, the look, the color schemes they offer on their website. However, the power brick is large, you need to take that into consideration, and the noise, it is really noisy. If I had to pick one of all of these grinders as my favorite, it is tough to pick one. You need to consider there are conical burrs and there are flat burrs. Conical burrs in general, they give you better body. Flat burrs gives higher clarity but slightly less body. So take that into consideration depending on your roasting profile. But the DF64V, I keep coming back to this grinder, and I think I would like to keep using this one. The fact of its quietness, the adjustable RPM, the ability to swap to SSP burrs, it's perfect. That's it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. I know I spoke a lot. I really try to give you the bigger picture here, and in the end, look, it's up to your personal preference. What is the roasting profile you are trying? I'll say this again, because in general, if you want something medium light, you want something with high consistency. If you want something like preferred dark roast, you want good body, something like the DF64 as is, as stock will be enjoyable for you. You don't want that high clarity in your espresso. All these grinders are great. I've included them because I liked all of them. I tried all of them, no issues at all. So you are the judge, make your own decision. If you have any of these grinders, let us know in the comment section. We love to hear your feedback and your thoughts. And if you have any questions, also feel free to leave them. I want to send a huge thanks for Me Coffee for sending us the new version. I know there are only a few on the market right now. So thank you so much for giving us the chance. Also, we have a discount code for them. Feel free to check it in the description below. Huge thanks to the DF64 for offering 2 lucky winners the chance to win 2 similar grinders like this one, DF64 V4 in pink color. Good luck everyone. Make sure to check the description for the giveaway. Last but not least, huge thanks to King Coffee also for sending this delicious coffee and this tasting profile mat. I really like this one. Thank you so much. Take care, and I'll see you very soon in the next video. Bye.